Veterans for Peace is a nonprofit dedicated to ending war and healing the wounds of war. Although we are a veterans organization, our membership also extends to those who have not served, but who share a commitment to our purpose. We believe peace abroad is possible only when there is peace at home, and home presents a multitude of issues affecting veterans. PTSD, depression, and suicide, homelessness and unemployment, and the evils of racism and discrimination in all their ugly forms. To seek peace is to seek justice. At Evansville, the challenge is great. Too many lack access to safe, affordable housing. Gun violence is rampant and spreading. Veterans and non-veterans alike struggle to get the care and support they and their families need to thrive. Our Evansville chapter sows the seeds for peace in different ways. We sponsor visits and presentations by thought leaders in the peace movement, clear and hopeful voices like Paul Chappell and David Swanson. We bring food and refreshment and compassion and understanding to veterans at the VA clinic. On Armistice Day, we dedicated a young linden beside the fallen who were interred at Oak Hill Cemetery. This tree, a progeny of the International Peace Tree planted in 1918, is a memorial to the longing for peace that binds all humanity. With support from local musicians, our annual John Lennon Night raises funds for families in war-torn Iraq. Over the last 15 years, we have provided nearly $20,000 to bring fresh water to homes, schools, and clinics. You can find out more about Veterans for Peace, including our complete statement of purpose, at these websites. If you like what we do and would like to be a part of it, we would be proud to have you as a member. Let's work for peace together.
And Rhodes, I welcome you to the Timbercrest Seniors for Peace. Our guests today are members of the Evansville chapter of Veterans for Peace. We have for some time wanted to connect with Veterans for Peace, and this spring we began conversations in preparation for this presentation. We've learned in those conversations how much we and the Veterans for Peace share in terms of our commitment to peace and to justice in this nation and around the world. So I now turn things over to the members of the Evansville chapter of Veterans for Peace. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for inviting us. I'd like to start, I'm LYNN KINKADE, by the way, Veterans for Peace, Chapter 104. I want to start with the Veterans for Peace Statement of Purpose. We, as military veterans, do hereby affirm our greater responsibility to serve the cause of world peace. To this end, we will work with others both nationally and internationally. 1, to increase public awareness of the causes and costs of war. 2, to restrain our governments from intervening overtly and covertly in the internal affairs of other nations. 3, to resist racism and repression in our home communities. 4, to oppose the militarization of law enforcement. 5, to end the arms race and to reduce and eventually eliminate nuclear weapons. 6, to seek justice for veterans and victims of war. 7, to abolish war as an instrument of national policy. To achieve these goals, members of Veterans for Peace pledge to use nonviolent means and to maintain an organization that is both democratic and open, with the understanding that all members are trusted to act in the best interests of the group for the larger purpose of world peace. Well, we'd like to start this morning just to give you an overview of Veterans for Peace, the national and international organization, and then we'll talk more about our local chapter, and then we'll go into our topic for the day. So, Gary, if you would be willing to lead us and give us a brief overview of the establishment and history of Veterans for Peace.
Okay, well, the national, now international organization was founded in Maine in 1985, actually. And it was kind of an offshoot of another organization that had been around, a peace and advocacy organization known as Vietnam Veterans Against the War, VVAW. That organization is still around, and many of our VFP members are concurrent or past members of VVAW as well. The organization, as you heard in the statement of purpose, is engaged in a broad range of activities, and the structure of the organization is such that the grassroots, the chapters, are the most important elements of the organization. There is a national structure that includes a national office in, it's kind of scattered now with COVID. It's in St. Louis, and our executive director is in the state of Maine. He's not the one who founded the organization, but he's the current executive director. The grassroots organizations on the ground, they're responsible for really setting their own course consistent with the statement of purpose and doing things in their communities that maximize the impact of our organization. What we have chosen to do in Evansville is to take largely an educational and awareness raising role. We've had a number of prominent workshops led by nationally or internationally known speakers, such as Paul Chappelle, David Swanson. We've done collaboration with an organization that seeks to legitimately inform high school students about the costs of militarism. We did a remote Zoom type call hookup with that group a while back that had a really good impact on some of the students that we presented it to. We also engage in an international reach. Each year on December 8th, we have a music event that's called LYNN Night. That happens to be the anniversary of Lennon's murder in New York City. And we gather, we have musicians, we're blessed with musicians in our chapter, and they get together and bring some of their buddies and fellow musicians and do a kind of a raucous and focused, peace-oriented concert at one of our local watering holes in the community. And each year we've given whatever we raise at the door in the way of an admission fee or voluntary contribution, we've given that to the national organization or through the national organization to the Iraq Water Project. And over the years, we've helped establish potable water to a variety of communities in Iraq, communities whose infrastructure, including water, has been decimated by the war during the time of the US involvement. So we've given away literally tens of thousands of dollars to that group, and it's been put to good use. This year on December 8th, we have elected to give our proceeds to another worthy project called the Team Rubicon. We're going to give our money to that group that does disaster aid to communities that have been afflicted with natural disasters such as Haiti. You may know from the news that Rubicon has been pretty actively involved in that. It's a veteran organization founded by veterans. Many of the people who work in that program are veterans. So that's a kind of a taste of some of the things that we do. I think a key element in our statement of purpose is the last one, which says that we operate from the assumption that people who are engaged with us act in a sense of commitment and obligation, and not hostility or animus toward any of the other members. So we can assume that even if we don't agree with some of our fellow members about priorities or topics or procedures, that none of it is mean-spirited or nefarious in tone, that we're all pulling in the same direction for the same cause, and that is peace.
Thank you, Gary. I just wanted to say for more information on for the national and international organization, you can go to veteransforpeace.org and you can investigate. There are lots of initiatives that they've started, including, as Gary mentioned, the Iraq Water Project, the Reclaim Armistice Day, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's a Peace at Home, Peace Abroad, the Korean Peace Campaign, the Golden Rule Peace Boat Project to try to seek the elimination of nuclear weapons, and many, many more. So there's a lot of information on that website.
And if I could just piggyback onto that, this Team Rubicon, you may know, is involved with the resettlement of Afghan refugees. And there's been quite an effort there at Camp Atterbury to get these people who have fled the country to be able to resettle in the U.S. And so that's another reason that we decided to choose that particular group this year to support with John Lennon Night.
Yeah, one of the things they're working in I guess, along with some of the National Guard units here in Indiana, to gather clothing and other needed items for the I don't call them refugees, I'm not sure, but the people from Afghanistan to resettle. They have a shortage of everything, supplies wise, and we're also for Lennon Night, we're going to ask people to either we don't technically charge a cover charge or anything like that, because we're a nonprofit. We suggest a donation and either cash or some type of an item of need for the people that are from Afghanistan that need it. And we'll have a list of all of that was supplied from Team Rubicon, so they don't have to bring cash. They can bring an item of clothing or diapers or some other thing that they need. You know, there's a lot of things on the list, and that's what we're going to ask for. So, we're trying to help support the people who need the help, because that's what we're about, really. It's all about that's part of the Peace at Home, Peace Abroad, along with speaking of that, this is a little bit kind of interesting to me, just because I read an article yesterday about, I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago, you know how it is, about some of the refugees there. And we have, I think, 10 new American citizens because they were born there. So that makes them automatically American, correct?
Yeah. All right, thanks, Bart. John Michael, I think it's time for our first video, Why Veterans for Peace. If you want to rack that up.
My name is Mary Allen. I've been a member of Veterans for Peace for about 9 months. I'm a veteran myself. I'm Army Reserve. So it's a organization that's personally near and dear to my heart. My dad is a war veteran and my brother is a war veteran. And we see and hear, even present day, the effects. And I think we would all agree we desire peace.
My name is Dave Helfrich. I've been a member of Veterans for Peace for 15 years. I'm a Vietnam veteran, I'm an old hippie, and I saw in the newspaper in 2003 where they had strung up their banner on the Four Freedoms Monument, and I said, hey, that looks like something for me. In the past, I've shied away from anything to do with military just because I didn't really like what was going on at the time and was a little bit ashamed. But they kind of looked like a group that had a really good eye on where we needed to be, and so I got involved.
I'm Bart Lennon Schmidt, and this is my 3rd year as a member of the Veterans for Peace. Even though I've served in the United States Army, I did serve during peacetime, and I'm fortunate for that. But I've always wanted to see peace on earth, even whenever I was in the Army, and I just want to help make the world a better place for my kids, my grandkids, which I have several now. I would like to see the world have peace at last.
My name is Stan Leitner, and I've been a member of Veterans for Peace for probably somewhere around 8 to 10 years. The reason I joined Veterans for Peace is I've seen combat, and I don't want anybody else to experience that.
I'm Caroline Nellis, and I've been a member of Veterans for Peace somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 years, I think. I can't remember exactly. The quality of the people that already were members and the cause that they believe in, because I was an anti-war activist back in the Vietnam era when a lot of the other members were actually serving. They came around after their service to feeling that war is not a necessity, that peace is the way humanity should be going. It spoke to my heart because that's what I've always believed, and I wanted to join forces with those who have served and also feel that way.
My name is LYNN KINKADE. I've been a member of Veterans for Peace for about 8 years. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I was against that war even while I was in Vietnam. And then I saw our country going to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, wars of choice, and accomplished very little except disastrous destruction and death. So I wanted to do what I could, to do my part, to try to encourage our country and the world to seek ways to find peace instead of war.
We were just introducing members, some of the members of Veterans for Peace, and basically telling what their military experience was, if any, and why they joined Veterans for Peace. So if we want to, we can do some of that, just talking about that just briefly. Bart and Gary, if you want to do that, well, John Michaels are working on it. That would be great. What your military experience and what brought you to join Veterans for Peace initially. Gary, if you want to start it.
Okay, yeah. Well, my interest in an organization like Veterans for Peace actually began while I was in Vietnam. I was there with the Marine Corps in 1968. And two important events happened there that began a process of change in me that I learned to truly value and embrace. The first was a religious ceremony or ritual that was made available to us in my company in Vietnam. And it was a Catholic Mass. I had been raised Catholic, and I thought, wow, something in this strange world that actually might be familiar to me. So I was looking forward to that and made sure that I got myself there. One of the things that happened in that Mass during the homily was the priest, it actually was a priest, appealing to higher powers for us, the US, to have the capability to prevail over those nasty Viet Cong and NVA regulars that we were encountering all the time. And in the moment, and subsequently, I was provoked to think about the fact that somewhere in Vietnam, which was a heavily Catholic country, that there was another mass going on simultaneously where that priest was praying so that the Viet Cong and NVA could prevail over us. And I thought, well, that's odd. How can both those things be true? But I was acutely aware that they were both true. The second thing that happened subsequent to that by some time was we were going into a village on a patrol, and I was the point man, and I was the first one to approach the village boundary. And on the path into the village was a senior village member, male, frequently referred to as a papasan, kind of like the unofficial mayor of that ville. And I remember as I was passing him on this narrow trail, I looked up and my eyes met his big brown eyes. And what I read in his eyes was the vexing question, what the hell are you doing here? He was fully aware that his village would not be unscathed after a bunch of Marines came marching through and upsetting things and sometimes even shooting livestock and all those other nasty things that we did. So that started a process of thinking about the broad concept of war and militarism. And it was not long after that that I concluded that that's not something that I wanted to be a part of anymore. And so when I came back out of the military, out of the hospital, I said frequently that I want to do what I can in this day forward to help prevent other young men and women from going through what I went through. It's just not right. And VFP in years later was a group that was out there that was doing the things that I really believed in. So I jumped on board, and that's what brought me to this moment in time.
Thank you, Gary. Bart, you want to?
Well, I don't have any, I joined the Army about 7 months after Vietnam was officially over. So I was fortunate enough to not have to go over there as far, you know, in my view. I graduated from high school in 1975 and it ended in April. So I joined in December of that year. And it was mostly, for me, it was an economic decision because it was during the really had that bad 70s recession and I couldn't find a job that was any good. And my mom was driving me nuts. You know, I was 18. I just had to do something. So I joined the Army because I didn't want to join for any longer than I had to. The Air Force was 4 years. Navy was 4 years. Army and Marines were 3, and I didn't want to join the Marines. No offense, Gary, but I'm not a sadomasochist, so I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. Just a joke. But I just, you know, I heard some stuff. But I said, well, I'll join the Army. I was there about 3 days and realized I hated it, that it wasn't my cup of tea, so to speak. But I did do my 3 years with not much distinction. I mean, I just served for 3 years, whatever you want to call it. I didn't think much about war while I was in there because I was fortunate enough to be in one of those rare 3-year stretches where we weren't involved in some kind of conflict, because it seems like we always are. So I do feel fortunate about that. But I developed my views as I aged, you know, and started looking at how things were. I got to know a lot of Vietnam veterans while I was in, obviously, because the war had just ended and there were still a lot of them there in the Army. So I served with several, you know, a lot of Vietnam veterans and heard the horror stories from them. And I used to tell people whenever I was young and you know, right while I was in the service, I said that to me there were three different types of Vietnam veterans that I could recall. You had the ones who wouldn't talk about it at all. I mean, they wouldn't talk about it at all. And I knew those were the ones that were deeply affected and negatively because they just didn't even have anything to say about it. They just want to hurry up and get the hell out. Their time, you know, finish their time that they had left or whatever it was. Then you had the ones that were just matter of fact. You know, they're the guys that just told it like it was and all of that. Just this is what we did. It was our job, kind of a thing, you know. But the ones that were scary because they're out there were the guys that laughed about it and acted like they enjoyed running over, you know, torching villages and stuff. There are people in the service, or there were when I was in there, that are actually like that. And that scared me. I knew I wasn't gonna be a party to any of that. It really, like I said, it scared me. Thankfully, there weren't very many like that, but there were a few. And I know that we all know there's people like that. Unfortunately, in our, you know, at least then, and probably still today, I'm assuming there might be a handful that are like that in the service, and that caused me to think a lot over time. Whenever I talk about my whatever service time I had, I would talk more about the people I met who served in the war. And as I said, as I aged, I started thinking about what I could do to try to help people to not do that, or, you know, experience it in any way. I didn't really know what I could do. I never heard of the Veterans for Peace. Obviously, it didn't exist till 1985. I got out in 1978, and I did know about the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, which, well, I wasn't a Vietnam veteran, so you know, I didn't feel like I could get involved in that. And it took a long time, actually, for me to start feeling like I could try to do anything. I mean, I was raising a family, everything like that. But what really started to drive me was, you know, the last several years, the way things were going. Well, first of all, let me backtrack just a little. My ex-son-in-law in 2000, he joined the National Guard. He was talking about joining the Marines. I talked him out of the Marines. He said the Army. I said, well, don't join the Army. Join the National Guard. I said, you're not committed to go anywhere. Well, you know what happened about that when 2003, or, you know, 2003 when we invaded Iraq. They started. When that happened, that was the big turning point, I think, for me, as far as feeling like I needed to try to do something, but it still took me a while because it felt so wrong. Invading Iraq just felt like the totally wrong thing to do. You know, sure, Saddam Hussein was not a good person, but it had nothing to do with 9/11, which was, as we all know, was a big lie. But my ex-son-in-law got sent over there. He, like I said, National Guard. You're supposed to guard the nation, not be sent overseas. Although that is, as we now know, part of the deal. He got sent over there, and he got blown up by an RPG. He didn't die, but he almost died 4 times. He lost his kidney, his spleen, part of his stomach, part of his pancreas. He got down to under 100 pounds while he was recuperating. He suffered a brain injury. He was really seriously wounded, and he was actually the first casualty from Evansville in the Iraq War. The first casualty of any kind in Evansville. Weird distinction, you know. He wasn't there but 3 weeks, I think, in November. So it's the anniversary that's approaching here. I mean, he was 19 years old. You know, he's still with us, and I still keep in touch with him, even though unfortunately he and my daughter divorced several years later because she said he was different, and he was. They started having problems, and it happens all the time. We all know that too. Well, anyway, I love him. He's a good kid, and he's been struggling with that. He's doing okay, but still, that was terrible. One of the worst things in my life, actually. And so as time goes on, this war goes, that war goes, everything. It's just war. And a few years back, I decided to finally get involved with the Veterans for Peace. I had known about him for a few years through LYNN night, actually. That's when I found out about him. I went to a LYNN, I saw about it in the paper, and I went. Yes, sir. Am I going too long?
I think you've been going 10 minutes, and we only have, you know, just a few. So
I have a tendency to
this
ramble.
is a
I'm sorry.
fascinating story, Bart, and I think it could make for an entire meeting, but we've got to move it along here.
Okay, well, anyway, the way things were going politically, militarily, and all that, I got involved. I guess almost 5 years ago, and I love these guys, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I guess I'll end it with that. Sorry to go so long.
That's okay. Thanks, Bart. John Michael, do we want to do the Peace is Possible video? You give us a brief intro as far as why you joined, and then go to the
Yeah,
Peace is
sure. I mean,
Possible
this
video?
is real. I'll make it real simple. You know, I had a student deferment. I didn't get drafted. I didn't serve, but I'm a member of Veterans for Peace because I agree with their purpose, and the organization welcomes non-veterans as associate members. All of you watching this would be invited to join this group if you believe in what we're trying to do. I joined this group because one of the members wrote me a letter and said, "Hey, would you come?" The man happened to be a Korean War veteran, a real dear man named Ron Greenfield. And so I showed up at one of the meetings, and I knew right away this was something I wanted to be a part of. So that's why I'm here. And yeah, we'll try this sharing again. And I apologize. This worked great yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't know why audio's not working so hot today, but we'll get it up here on the screen and we'll try it again.
If a flower is possible,
If a mountain is possible,
If planets and stars are possible,
If kindness is possible,
if forgiveness is possible,
If love and friendship are possible,
if humanity is possible, peace is possible.
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 I want to just spend the last few minutes talking about Armistice Day. And John Michael, I'd love for you to introduce that just a little bit of the history of Armistice Day and what we are trying to do with the Reclaim Armistice Day as one of our VFP initiatives.
Well, this is something that I've noticed ever since I've been a part of Veterans for Peace, is that we've always referred to November 11th as Armistice Day, while the rest of the world talks about Veterans Day. And I guess a couple of years ago, the National tried to put some more emphasis behind this effort, and they've got a movement or an action now going called Reclaim Armistice Day. And if you go to the website, the VFP national website, you'll see several pieces have been written about this, and we're encouraged to talk about the reason for that day and how it kind of devolved into Veterans Day. You know, when the armistice was signed and first came into being at the end of World War I, people were so sick and tired of fighting that when they finally stopped, they said, "Oh man, we've got some peace now, something to really celebrate." And so I think it was in 1926 when Congress actually designated November 11 as Armistice Day, and the quote, "to commemorate with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations." So we're going to take the bold leap of looking at other nations as actually people like us that were pursuing the same ideal of peace. And I don't know, it became a national holiday, I think, in 1938. But in 1954, I'm thinking, I don't have that date in front of me.
I think that's
there
right.
was a decision to go ahead and let's call it Veterans Day. I mean, this happened under Eisenhower. And it was a real subtle shift, you know, from honoring the peace, which we see as the ideal, to now let's step back and honor the soldier or the person who served. And that was just one step away removed from the ideal. So since that time, if you'll put two and two together, we've had, well, this was right after we finished with Korea, which was never really concluded. I mean, that war has never been officially over, you know, and we still see the conflict going on there at the border. We had Vietnam, we've had Iraq, we've had Afghanistan, and we've lost every one of those wars. If you want to, you know, for lack of a better word, we've become war losers. And our position is that the reason for that is because we no longer seek peace as the ideal. We've fallen into this militarism mode where we get all weepy and, you know, salute the flag and cry about dead soldiers, but we don't do anything about it. We keep turning the same wheels and pulling the same levers that just keep us in a state of perpetual conflict. So we think one way to step back and try to reverse this is to recognize that peace is the ideal. We need to be celebrating the Armistice Day, not Veterans Day. And by celebrating the peace, that's truly the way to honor those who serve.
Amen.
And I don't think you can celebrate both. There's a question on the agenda about, oh, well, can't we do both? No, I think that's a mistake. I think when you sacrifice your ideal, it's a mistake. And I understand there's going to be a lot of veterans who are going to say, oh, you know, you're disrespecting me. Well, think about it. My answer to that person, you just don't get it yet, but think about it. You will.
Well, people seem to forget a little bit that Memorial Day was originally supposed to honor veterans, I believe, wasn't it?
The dead. Yeah, the dead.
and somehow it you know, however things happen that way. And yeah, that is what you said about people getting that idea that it dishonors veterans is a totally false assumption.
And within Veterans for Peace, we honor veterans every day. That's our stance. I wanted to throw it open to the Timbercrest Seniors for Peace for comments, questions on this question. If you have any other questions for us or things you'd like to contribute, we'd love to hear from you in the last few minutes that we have here.
This has been very enlightening and helpful and eye-opening. Thank you. And we need to learn more about this Reclaiming Armistice Day so we can help you support it.
I was very interested to hear about the water project in Iraq. When in the video we saw children with water cans, filling those water cans, and I was waiting and wanting to ask you questions about what was going on there, but you've answered that and I really appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, some of the initiatives on the water project, I mean, each year when we would do our LYNN night, there were priorities that were listed by the folks on the ground in Iraq who were actually implementing this this project, and we had Iraqi plumbers and helpers who actually did the installations and then do the upkeep. But some of the early targets, if you will, of their initiative were programs involving children, daycares. There was one children's hospital or clinic that we gave money to one year, or that was their priority. So it wasn't just happenstance or helter-skelter about who got the benefit of some of those initiatives. It was predicated on an assessment of need as stated by the Iraqi people themselves.
Great.
I want to applaud you on your mission that you've taken on here for promoting peace, especially those of you that have military backgrounds, because I've heard that a lot of veterans, especially those who have experienced war, realize that it's a terrible thing and it doesn't really accomplish the ultimate goal in most cases. So,
Yeah, I agree. And beyond that, I mean, you know, it shouldn't be left to just veterans who've served in especially in combat roles to promote peace, because peace, once achieved, is going to benefit all of us. So all of us have a stake, and I would suggest a responsibility to help promote peace in our own communities. What can we do? You know, there's International Peace Day in September 19th, that the community could organize some sort of peace activity around. We do a lot of events that are staged at our Four Freedoms Monument on the riverfront in Evansville. For Armistice Day this year, we have plans in the works to do something again. So, you know, it's not just a matter of veterans doing all of this, but other people who are like-minded and have a commitment to peace to put their shoulders to the wheel as well, to do some things that help promote peace by, number one, making the community aware that peace has not yet been achieved, and we can all be a part of making it happen.
You know, one of the things
too.
go ahead.
I really appreciate the stories you told about how you got involved. That was good.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that when you talk about some of the things that you're doing, for example, in September, that we are following the same calendar and doing many of the same or similar things, but it's very satisfying to know that we are doing it right along with you. And that's a satisfaction to me.
Exactly, and that's satisfaction to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's living what I was just suggesting we all need to do, and that is share the burden, share the responsibility for that ultimate payoff when peace is achieved. And it is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd like to point out, this is a kind of a jarring fact, but true, that the United States spends as much on our military as the next 11 countries combined. Yeah. Okay, and our military is the largest institutional user of fossil fuels, and therefore the single largest entity contributing to global warming.
Spread the word.
Well, it's almost 5 till 10 according to my watch. So I don't know how much time we have reserved on the Zoom. And we were scheduled for 50 minutes. We ran over a little bit, Jan, but if you guys have any other questions or comments for us, that would be great. Otherwise, if we want to call it a day, we can end our session here. And again, Dean, as I said, one of us can send you the link to the videos if we can get that.
Hey,
edited in with the actual sound, that would be terrific.
Hey, Lynn, I'm sorry, Lynn, it just occurred to me that you didn't say anything about how you got involved with us.
Well, that was on the video, so.
We'll get to it.
You gotta buy the book.
I will run out of time, sorry.
On behalf of those at Timbercrest, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the preparation you've done, for the time you've spent with us, and the opportunity to learn about what you're doing and to know that we are walking together. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jen.
Personally, I'm honored that you guys took the initiative to reach out to us.
Yes,
Good. Very good.
I agree. Peace is possible.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you all.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll
goodbye.
stay in touch.
You guys take care of the northern flank and we'll keep an eye on the south.
Absolutely.